Good morning to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. Let's start off with the National Hurricane Center homepage. And of course, we have our area of interest off the southeast coast. This morning, though, the latest National Hurricane Center advisory from 8 o'clock only gives us a 0% chance. So pretty much this area of interest we have off the southeast coast will be nothing but a rainmaker for those along the southeast, including Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas over the next several days. And I said that last night, that this area of interest probably will not have much time at all to really be able to gather and have a chance to really develop into an actual nameable entity. But it's still going to bring impacts to the southeast regardless, in the form of heavy rain, gusty winds, and probably some flooding. And that's obviously still impacts. It's not a nameable system, but I mentioned, and I always say this every single time, the number one killer in tropical systems, anyways, is the rain and the flooding. And of course, things like rain and flooding can happen even if we don't have a tropical system. So please, obviously, watch out for if there's any flooding. And of course, keep in mind that there will be quite rainy and dreary conditions if you are in the southeast for the next several days. There is a high chance of development, though, in the eastern Pacific. We have an area of interest now. We've been monitoring this area of interest for the last several days, but it now has a high chance of developing over the next week. An 80% chance by the National Hurricane Center. This is an area of interest south of Mexico. The NHC says that it's an area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms right now. And this is the product of a tropical wave. And I always say that these tropical waves, they come off Africa. And even if they don't develop in the Atlantic, they could develop either in the Western Atlantic and sometimes, well, not just sometimes, a lot of times too, especially early on in the season, tropical waves that come off of Africa. This is probably once again a wave that originated from Africa. They make it all the way to the Western Atlantic and into the Pacific, and especially in the early season, they could help really in tropical development in the Eastern Pacific. And obviously, this is one of those cases. And of course, the National Hurricane Center says environmental conditions will be favorable for development, and a tropical depression will likely form over the weekend as it moves generally west-northwestward around 10 miles per hour. So west-northwestward, probably not going to directly impact Mexico, which is a good thing, but obviously keep in mind of rip currents, which will probably be high because of whatever develops out of this system. Taking a satellite imagery of the Atlantic and the Pacific right now. It's a little bit choppy because I think Tropical Tidbits was actually down for a few hours this morning, so not the entire satellite loop was able to run. Or I think it's also GOES data. The GOES satellite data is also running behind. But, I mean, we still have a satellite anyway, so whatever. But as you can see here, across the Western Atlantic, obviously, we have our mess of showers and thunderstorms over Florida this morning. So showers and thunderstorm activity, expect that over most of Florida today. And then this general mess is going to move northward into the Carolinas and throughout the southeast as we head into the rest of the weekend. Beyond that, not much else in the Atlantic. The focus, once again, for actual development that'll occur within the next few days will be in the Eastern Pacific, and you can see there's also some shower and thunderstorm activity there. None of it organized yet, but judging by the National Hurricane Center's forecast or their area of interest that they have here, it'll probably organize quite a bit over the next several days, and we're probably not far away from getting another named storm in the Eastern Pacific. And let's go to a full shot of the Atlantic now, because we were only here on the Western Atlantic, and just to really hammer the point home, nothing at all in terms of development in the Atlantic over the next several days. In fact, if you look at the MDR, it is quite literally bone dry, not a convective cloud in sight. And part of that is due to Saharan air, which I actually have the map pulled up here. This is the Saharan air graphic, and you can see, look at all the dust in the MDR. And once again, I will remind you, this is typical of this time of year that we have lots of Saharan air that comes off the coast of Africa. and keeps things very dusty and dry in the MDR. That's why we don't look at development in the Eastern Atlantic this time of the year, early on in the hurricane season. But for now, things are very dusty out there, and the Atlantic is very quiet. Nice little upper level low here, or nice little, extratropical system. And obviously, we have a sort of frontal system here that this area of interest off the southeast coast is actually a part of. And sometimes, because this is part of the general frontal system and this is the tail end of the frontal system, and in some cases, we've seen this in past years that these tail end of the fronts can break off and then try to form its own little low pressure. And obviously, this kind of does, or at least did try to do that a little bit, but obviously it is going to fail to actually develop and become a tropical system. But once again, still going to bring rain to portions of the southeast. And then really quickly, taking a look at the 850 millibar vorticity, one you could see our vorticity that is over Florida and also portions of the eastern Gulf, but in general it's a very stretched out area of vorticity, very disorganized, and obviously it's over land, so it will not really have time or really the space to be able to consolidate. And once again, that nice little extratropical system that I just showed you on the satellite here in the northern Atlantic, that's a really nice looking feature. Definitely has quite a bit of vorticity with it. Maybe, and this is once again the satellite image of it, maybe if this was a little bit further south and a little bit later on in the year, I would imagine this probably maybe would be a developing subtropical system and be designated by the National Hurricane Center. Just maybe. And maybe it still might try to do it, although there's really no indication of that right now. But still an interesting little looking feature nonetheless, and I'm pretty sure we probably will get some sort of subtropical development at some point this hurricane season, but obviously this probably will not do so. And then taking a look out here in the eastern Atlantic, nice and quiet, maybe a little bit of vorticity that's coming off of Africa right now, probably a tropical wave, and then we have this huge mess of vorticity over Central America, the western, southwestern Caribbean, and into the eastern Pacific. And this is generally part of our Central American gyre that's setting up this month, and is what's helping aid development here in the eastern Pacific. And as I mentioned before, as we progress into this month, we might have to watch to see, will it help aid in anything trying to develop in the Atlantic. And I'll show you really quickly here on the GFS, just to see if anything does develop. I'll take you out to time. Over the next 3 days, obviously, first of all, you could see our signature here in the Atlantic. Let me take it one at a time because there's multiple things I want to show you on the GFS. But let's take it, one at a time here. First, our area here off in the southeast. You could obviously see there is vorticity, but it's very stretched out. Stays over land, and you can see that it does try to consolidate, but it's over land, it's not over water, and obviously tropical cyclones develop over water, so bottom line, it's not going to develop at all. We won't have to worry about a named entity coming out of it, but obviously, once again, gusty conditions and less than ideal weather over the southeast probably for the next few days as we round up and head towards the end of the week, and then eventually this moves off and kind of gets absorbed in this general stretch of energy that we have over the northeast U.S. and over the northwestern Atlantic. Generally some sort of trough that we have here, so it's probably going to get enveloped in that. And then meanwhile in the eastern Pacific, you could see we do have development there within the next 72 hours. So this is by this weekend, as the National Hurricane Center says. You do see we are starting to see some bundling of vorticity here. And by Sunday, that looks like a bona fide tropical storm probably on the GFS. And then luckily, as you see, it heads west-northwest. Doesn't get, or I mean, it is somewhat close to Mexico, but it doesn't make a direct impact to Mexico. Except I guess the GFS does take this up close to the Baja, so maybe we might have to watch for that as we get to around that time. But generally, looks like, as you can see in the Eastern Pacific, development will occur there over the next several days. And then meanwhile, over the next week in the Atlantic, absolutely nothing occurring to speak about, which is obviously a good thing. But once again, notice back here over Central America, you could see quite a bit of vorticity over Central America, generally associated with our gyre pattern. And you could see kind of here the gyre too, a very broad area of where there is cyclonic turning. And you could also see within these wind bars, you kind of have some turning here, some easterlies here, and then some winds coming out of the west here as well. So generally a mess of vorticity in general, broad turning over Central America. That's what the Central American gyre really is. But at least over the next week or so, it generally stays over Central America, and it doesn't try to move northward and actually consolidate over water in the Caribbean or Gulf. So at least over the next week, once again, nothing major in terms of tropical development, at least in the Atlantic, but obviously we're going to have to watch in the Eastern Pacific. So it does look like they're very likely to probably get another named storm here within the next few days. With that being said, though, not much else going on in the tropics, so I'm going to end it off for today's video. If you enjoyed what you saw today, I would really appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe, share this video with family and friends, and those that you think might find this kind of content interesting. And once again, if you are interested in this channel, we'll be doing these videos every single day, so stay tuned for tomorrow's tropical update. And if you're not subscribed already, please do so, and especially turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. I will see you back here tomorrow.